Hey guys, it's been a while. I'm Kelby Smith with His Advocates TV, hisadvocates.org. I want to thank you guys and welcome you to another broadcast. This is our 330th His Advocates TV show. We do a lot of different shows on our platform. First and foremost, go to your phones right now, download our app, His Advocates TV. One word, His Advocates TV. Download our app and make sure that you follow us. You can also go to YouTube and find us over there. We have, I think, 60,000+ subscribers over on YouTube. We're on Roku, Amazon, Android, Apple, Samsung, LG, and we're pursuing others. We're going to be hitting the National Association of Broadcasting this week, and I'm pretty excited about the growth of our platform as a ministry and freeing people. But I'm really excited about the following guest. His name is Cal Washington from the INPOWER movement. I'm going to read a bio real quick. He's an advocate, kind of like me, who stumbled into knowledge leading into an extraordinary experience with the systems of commerce and justice. As co-founder of the INPOWER movement, he is dedicated to sharing the knowledge to help people truly take back their power. Now, on that note, I've already talked to this gentleman, and he's from Canada, but I've been kind of following him in the background for the last year and a half, and a lot of people are talking about the success that he has with different elements of bringing control systems in place to stop bioterrorism, and that's the best way to describe it. But I'm going to bring him on and welcome Cal to the platform. Cal, I appreciate you showing up and joining us today.
I'm honored to be here, Kelby.
No, buddy, I'm honored to have you, man. It's truly hard to find people that are willing to step up and really be in the face of the power structure. And I think out of everybody I've interviewed, everybody I've ever had on a show or even talked to as a potential friend, you're in their face in a way that I don't think I have ever seen before. Why don't you briefly describe for my customers, my people here at His Advocates, what you do and why you're successful? The floor is yours.
Well, it started with a divorce, and my eyes got opened to the court. I had not really been in the court. I had a couple things, traffic and stuff like that over my lifetime, but nothing, no criminal charges or anything like that. And so now I'm immersed in this thing, and it wasn't what I thought it was. And there was something else going on in there, and this isn't what court's supposed to be like. And the truth didn't seem to matter. Like it's irrelevant. Like we need to get to this and get that done. They weren't saying what it was, but I knew they had an agenda going on in there. And so I was just trying to put my finger on it. Like I could, everything they did was towards an end, and it wasn't apparent what that end was, but they weren't interested in any kind of truth or anything that was really being said by me or my ex-wife. And they just wanted to get us through this thing so that they get to where they wanted to go to. And it took me years to figure out what that was. Long story short is the child support orders are bills of exchange by definition. So it took me years to understand what a bill of exchange was. I didn't even know they existed. But then once I understood them, I went, hang on a second. A child support order is a bill of exchange, and therefore it is money in this country and actually around the world. So that's when I went, oh, that's what they were after. They just want to get to that piece of paper, get two people's names on there, a dollar figure, a date, and a signature, and kaboom, they got the money for kids up until they're 19. So it's significant amount of value on these pieces of paper, which have value in the open market. And of course, being the court, they have access to that open market.
And for the record, Cal, I've seen the actual registries and accounting in court. I saw one for the Newport Beach courthouse here off Jamboree in California, and 1 month was $800 million. And that's a lot of money for a court to be making based on the bonds of the cases. So go ahead, you have the floor.
Yeah. So that's what, it's a money-making thing. It's a business, and it offers court services but its core reason to exist is to make money, and there's a lot of money that goes through a court. So, but my journey to get to that, it started with trying to figure out what was going on in there and what country am I in, and all the laws and everything. And I was reading a lot of acts, put a lot of effort into it, and was trying to come up with arguments in there. And I kept losing. Like it was like they weren't listening. They didn't care. And so I just wouldn't give up. I'm the type of guy that just keeps going. I'm built that way. I'm genetically. Both sides of my family are the ones that just stand there and don't back down. So I come from that, even though I'm quite laid back in that, but I still have that core in me. And so, so I just wouldn't give up. I wouldn't relent. And I was nice about it. I wasn't aggressive or anything, and a couple of judges even commented, you're asking the right questions. Like, keep going. And others would say, you're very polite, but you're adversarial. Like, because my stance is like, no, I'm not moving, and I'm very polite about it, but very firm as well. So it just was this constant journey. I went to a lot of gurus here in Vancouver. There was a lot of, I had no idea this was going on, but there were a lot of groups meeting and talking about alternative law and the capitalized name and birth certificates and trusts and all this stuff that I thought was just
crazy.
What is all this? Like, I really didn't believe it at first. And so I went through, one guru to the next and just kept trying all their stuff in my court cases. So I was doing it on myself. And so I learned the hard way what works and what doesn't. And that's the start of my story.
So what you do in a nutshell is you hold accountable the power structures on, is it 4 or 5 four different structures where they are using bioweapons against the people.
Yeah.
And because of the 4 structures that you've picked, they can't do anything about their ability to respond. Hence, you are creating a court of record and a bill of exchange that holds them personally accountable and makes them want to quit or move on or run from their position that they're currently in. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And
so go ahead.
No, you go.
Yeah, so it's through my whole thing learning commerce. I went from one guru to the next, and then I went to this guy, and he was teaching commerce. So I thought, well, this is the next thing, that sounds weird that I'm going to entertain, like look at it. And the light bulbs went off. It was a weekend seminar, and the light bulbs were just going off like crazy because I'd already been in a couple of years. And now things were making sense with what this guy was saying. Oh, that's why that didn't work. Oh, that's why they did that when I said that. That's why they did this. So I went, this is all starting to come into context now. So I still have these cases running. They've been running for a couple of years. And I'm going to try this guy's thing like I tried everybody else's. And the judge that I'd already been in front of numerous times ran out of the room. Instead of that aggressive, actions towards me and talking loud and being, authoritative, he's now running. And I went, hang on, we might be onto something here. So it was just literally try again, and got the same kind of different. But all the judges were not comfortable with this new thing that I was doing. So it really changed my life at that point. And so what I learned through all of that was how the whole system is a commerce system, which ties in with the Bible. It's called Babylon in the Bible, Mystery Babylon in the book of Revelation. And it sits on this beast, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I figured out what this thing was, and it's commerce in essence, or its modus operandi is commerce. So when the smart meters came out, I saw what they were doing. They were offering these things. They were using commercial means to deploy weapons, like you call them bioweapons, and they are. So I knew what to do. I was already
just when you say that. Look, here's the thing. You know, I've always called myself, I'm just a mainstream guy. I was a conspiracy theorist at first, then I became a conspiracy factualist, and now I'm like, okay, everything you say about the four subject matters that we're about to discuss being bioweapons, I can show people in the law where the Congress of these countries, not necessarily Canada, I haven't looked there, but I can unequivocally show in the United States Congress where these bioweapons are allowed to do what they're doing to the people of this nation. And so there is not a single element of conspiracy to what you're stating. They are hurting the people, they're hurting the environment, and it blows my mind that this is allowed at this point because they obviously do not have the backs of the people of this world. Go ahead, I yield.
Yeah, so it's not even the word conspiracy, it's the theory. It's because there is such a thing as a conspiracy. They have laws against it. You can be charged with conspiracy. So they've taken that word and turned it into if you say anything, then you're a nut bar, right? So a conspiracy theorist. There is a conspiracy. It's a fact that there is, and the left hand does not have to know what the right hand is doing, and that's part of what a conspiracy is. If you look it up, there's laws against it. So yeah, so they have these items that they're deploying, and they are weapons in fact, but they're deploying them not with military per se, like, you know, armies moving tanks, etc. through. They're selling it to us. We're buying into it, and this adds a whole other aspect to it as to why they're doing it that way. It's very clever, but in my opinion, it's so they can stand before the Most High God and say, no, they wanted this stuff. So that's why they're talking about climate change, because we all think that there's this climate change that we need to fix. And so they can almost come up with anything that's going to fix the climate change, and we're going to go, yay, more, do it more, twice as much. Let's fix this. We're all in this together. And correct. So they're selling it to us, just like they sold cigarettes and asbestos in home building and all that stuff. So it's a sales tactic. So we can, because it's moving in commerce, we can renegotiate a contract at any time. It's always open for negotiation. You can always say, no, I'd like to have it this way this time, or I would like to not have it at all. So they, in their cleverness to get us to agree, they also open up the door for us to disagree. Where if it was armies moving down the street with tanks, etc., there's correct. You can't come out with a piece of paper saying there's an ordinance saying you can't have equipment that heavy on our roads. They would just look at you like, no.
Everybody comes to an agreement on this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, really quick, I want to show the website. The INPOWER website. It shows what you do, somewhat how you do it. I'm going to ask everybody, go ahead and go to empowermovement.org. Sign up. This is what it's dealing in. Trespassing technologies, meaning smart meters on your houses, mandatory vaccines, wireless radiation, geoengineering. I've looked at all this stuff up in the law, and it exists. So there's no doubt in my mind that, you know, what you're dealing with and what you're taking on is lawful. But what they're doing is obviously causing major health issues. All you have to do for this one is Go to Vayers, and you can see the 7-8+ million injured just in this nation alone. I can't even imagine what the auxiliary injury is to heart cancer, diabetes, and all the other things that are going through the roof on that one. And one of the things that's horrible is I just started watching a couple videos recently where they had taken the military, and a guy that was 18 years in the military who did not want the vaccine. He was in a cell. They bum rushed him, 8 guys, put him on the ground, and gave it to him.
Wow.
And I've seen other military where they were sitting down, and 4 or 5 people walked up around him and jabbed him in the arm right there. And so there's, in the military, supposedly your body is not your body, it belongs to the United States government. And that's the passive, tacit approach that they're taking with the military members. You kind of do the same with the police. But there is a way to stop them. And we were working on systems to help people. You obviously have a system to help people with these 4 subject matters. So can we talk about that just a little bit and take a minute on why it works on smart meters on just these 4? And because I was very specific, this would work on almost anything. You said correct, but, and why are you focused on these 4 only?
Because they are weapons, and we put the onus on them to disprove that, and you can't disprove a weapon. A weapon is like we compel them to show that they're safe, and they can't show they're safe because they're weapons.
Right.
So, and another thing is these things are happening everywhere in the world exactly the same way. There's no variance on it. So these notices are very specific. So if there's too many variants and you got to have another document, you would end up with millions of documents if you try to deal with every issue in the world. But these 4 smart meters are identical in Tennessee, in Canada, in Denmark, in New Zealand, all the same. The vaccines are all the same everywhere in the world. The 5G is the same everywhere in the world, and the spraying in the air is the same everywhere in the world. So we don't have that. We don't have those variables. So we can do this on a worldwide scale and not have to have a million documents. We deal with 4 agendas for every country, and there's variance on just the country itself because of their laws and their constitutions and everything. So they are customized per country, but we don't have to customize for those 4 agendas because they're identical.
That is great. Appreciate you telling us that. Check this out. So when you and I were dialoguing, I told you where I come from and why I'm doing what I'm doing. And we ran into each other at that moment on a spiritual level that hadn't been discussed. And I kind of felt like I was really taken back by it, because I don't think there's anything that happens in life that is random. I think everything is designed. And I was sharing with you an experience in a moment. I'm going to share the screen one more time. This is on my Facebook, and I've had it on my Facebook since 2016. Now, I was outside reading the Bible, and I was literally crying out. This is a year before a major change in my life. I was like, God, why are you allowing these things in my life? And then right here, you can't barely see it, is a sparrow. He lands. Well, I got to pick that sparrow up and hold him like that and take a picture. Dog used to play outside. I used to live in a 40-foot bus right along Bonelli Park. This is a very busy area, but that was my view every day. And here this sparrow that same day lands next to me, and you can see my dog in the background right there. Not doing anything, not coming up to me, Dad, what's going on? What are you holding? And I brought the sparrow in my house and gave him a bath. This dude could fly, but didn't move for about 30 minutes total. And the reason why this was so compelling to me is and it wasn't until 2 years later that I realized the biblical verse regarding a sparrow. And 3 or 4 years later that I was reading Revelations 18, which was the entire foundation and structure of the His Advocates ministry. Come out of her, my people, lest you fall into various, trials and participate in the judgments of the plagues. And he's specifically talking to Christians or people that believe in God. And so this to me was a profound statement that I was crying out about something different. I was miserable in my life and I was having a very difficult moment. And I ended up getting a multi-confirmation, not just to, hey, he's counting, he knows every hair on my head, to, hey, Kelby, you're going down the right path of freeing people. And there's much more to that story that I don't have time to get into. And then Cal, you say what you're about to say to me regarding the next verse of that very chapter of that very book.
Yeah, I mean, we also are. I mean, our church is called Revelation 18 Church, so that is our foundation. But that voice, so it's a voice from heaven that says what you just said in verse 4, and it says to my people. So there's a voice from heaven saying my people, whatever that is. This voice has some people, and the voice is from heaven. And so the voice from heaven happens in the Bible a few times, but not that many. So it's significant. Like when a voice is coming from heaven, pay attention. It was at Mount Sinai and at the baptism of Yeshua.
This is my son who I'm well pleased.
Exactly. Now, in Revelation, my people, come out of her, my people. But the voice continues on in verse 6. So a lot of people stop at verse 4 and say, we got to get out of Babylon. But verse 6 says, take the cup that she's been giving you, fill it double in the same cup, and give it back to her.
Now, look, I have not studied that yet, but when you told me that, and I'm like, shut the front door. Oh my gosh. This blew my mind because I never really understood that or how to do that. But God put me, it's like we as a body of people, all people are children of God. Some people want it, some people don't. But as a body of people, I just really resonated on helping people come. I just came down this huge, long road of experiences and understandings and business practices and going through some very hard times in business. And at one time have 49 active lawsuits from people who were suing me for fax blasting, and I wasn't even fax blasting. And I just learned the ins and outs of courts, and I learned who our system was, like you did in divorce, and I learned that none of it was fair, none of it was righteous, none of it was equal. There was no equity opportunity in these courts. And I really started going down this journey in 2008. I went to a seminar that changed my mind, and that over the next 4 years of doing something in re-inhabiting the Republic. I think I told you this part of the story. I went to visit. He's no longer with us, but he was the guru of state citizenship at this time. And I went to visit him at his embassy, and I got to see his consul plates, got to see his passports from another country that were consul and got to see his flag that he converted his house into an actual embassy for this foreign nation. So he had taught me a few things in that you can be a United States citizen and get foreign jurisdiction structures set up to absolve you from any police being able to do anything against you. And it all depends on the ID that you take out at that moment, because he had a US passport and then he had this country passport. And at the time he told me it was $10,000 a passport, and I wish I would have done it, but I just thought it was a lot. I didn't have the extra 40 for my family. And but we went to lunch. He rolled by a cop. He punched it. Went, phew. Cop turned on his lights, got behind him, and then turned off his lights and turned around. And I'm like, that is so powerful. Not that he could do that for that reason, but just that there was no jurisdiction. And so I got into this jurisdictional conversation with him, asked him what he thought about the Republic. And this is the single line that changed my life. He said, I think there are a bunch of complaining U.S. citizens. And I really resonated on that. And to this day, I say that to the people in the Republic. I think you're just a complaining U.S. citizen. Because I don't want to hurt their feelings, but I want them to understand there's different jurisdictions that God has made available. And the fact that you're a U.S. citizen is an election. The fact that you're, a State of the Union citizen is an election. And it's all being done with these benefits that are a color of law good, and they're not. They're really not, because as a U.S. citizen, you're basically holding an office structure that allows you to be the surety and the debtor, the collateral, if you will, literally, of the debt of this nation, of which they are disbanding right now. This country is being disbanded by this administration. The ports gone, the parks gone. So if you don't think that you're losing your nation, it's being sold off, literally. And now they're doing the currency, and they're going to collapse and steal the money. And so to hear that, I went down this journey of his advocates and finding out about state citizenship, and that's literally a citizenship under God. Literally where you are self-governed, and where we in this nation have something very special. But Canada, they have something similar in common law, natural law, and same with every other country. But what I found out, Cal, is every nation is a corporate equivalent, meaning their corporate name, Australia Republic, is registered onto the Securities and Exchange Commission. And all their people's birth certificates are traded. Same with the UK. Same with every single nation. So when God specifically, and this is a conversation maybe we can have in the future, says come out of her, the big question is, well, what is her? Everybody wants to say it's the Catholic Church, it's this, it's that, it's whatever. And I have nothing against Catholics whatsoever. My mom is one. I have something against the Vatican, the Pope, and the structure, and many priests. But faith towards a God and a religion, I wish people would consider a non-denominational, but at least they're working towards something. But on that note, watching how the structure of the corporation is, and watching what they're doing with these patents right now, and the taking over of the DNA, the taking over of their ability to own and control, like Pfizer will be able to put a patent on you if you're vaccinated. And let me see, 29 minutes. I'm going to have to bleep that. But that's literally a fact in law. And you become the property of Pfizer because it's now called cDNA. It's not DNA anymore. You're not in the likeness of God. Your DNA gets altered. And under the color of law and through patent law, they're now able to patent you as a subject. What's next? It's the chip, it's the registration, it's the mark, and moving towards a biblical finish of the book of Revelation. So when you started talking about having enforcement, and you are getting success stories, and that's what I want you to hit on a little bit with me, and you're getting royalty and people in powerful positions to step down where they would nowhere ever do this. And there's and explain the reason if you will, but the success story of give them back double portion of what they've given you, because they've been taking our likeness, the BC birth certificate, monetizing it, making it so that the mom and dad are turning over the product of the union, their child, to the state through coercion,
bills of lading.
Yeah, and not making it a known thing to the mother and the father.
No,
and now the mother and father are literally in law because they sign a document that says parent, judicially decreed guardian. That's what it means. And informant on the signature line of the BC, parent and informant. So that one box which asks for their signature of the mom only, she's agreeing to turning the product of the union over to the state. That's what informant means. One who turns one over, and agreeing and consenting to being the guardian of that child for the rest of that child's life. And this is why CPS or social services can come in at any time and do what they do.
Yep.
And so I find it fascinating that you figured it out. Please, if you will, give a couple minutes on your successes and how and what that looks like for potential people if they want to follow the system.
Well, the Revelation 18 explains it all, but it's hidden. It's seen through a glass darkly. So it talks about the corruption, which you kind of mentioned, and then it gives two instructions. One is come out of her. It doesn't say what that is. And the other is give the cup back. So there's some action. You have to still interact with the thing. So it's not like running away when we come out of her. We have to still be able to be within, handing distance of this cup. So then once this cup has been given over, then the Lord says, the vengeance is mine and strong is the Lord who avenges based on what we do. So this cup thing is important, but it's not said what it is. But then when you see the fall of Babylon, it's very clear what it is. Merchandise, merchants, gold, silver, and the merchants stand afar off, bewailing her. And the merchants stand afar off, looking at the smoke of her rising. Where did all this wealth go? So you can tell it's about money. It's about the merchant system. So that's what Babylon is. It's this commercial system. That's why all the countries are registered at the SEC and all this stuff. It's all about money. Money is the root of the control system. There is no bad thing that anybody can mention in Earth that money isn't involved with. That's how you bribe somebody.
Talk about the structure of her. There's only one system. And then I went through this. We don't need to do this right now, but I went through 16, 17, 18 with people of Revelations talking about the possibilities of what other systems it could be. And every single time that it gave a likeness to what the whore is. Now there's two opportunities. There's the beast and the whore. And I'm specifically speaking of the whore within the beast system and what the whore is. And it all kept pointing back to the United States Corporation, which is the mask. It's the overlay of the United States of America, which is the ground and the people. And so that's a whole nother dialogue. I'd like to venture down that road with you and discuss that because you obviously have intelligence, but there's only one structure in this whole world that is the commercial system and holding everything. And so when you talk about the needing of taking down the whore and why the beast gets pissed off at the whore, it's because the whore is the representation of the people of America who are the pledged surety, actually the people of the whole world who are the pledged surety through the United States Corporation. But that's a whole nother dialogue, which ties into Wall Street, ties into the SEC, and because there's no other power structure that's in control of it all like this corporation is.
Well, there's three things. There's the Vatican, there's the London
Crown
and Chancery, and then there's the United States. It's a three-headed beast. And so, yeah, they're all in cahoots, but the whole thing is an illusion because money doesn't exist. God didn't say on day 8, let's make money and saw that it was good. And on day 9, he didn't make countries and say, and this is good. These are all contrivances. And we believe that they exist, but they don't. So there aren't any countries. There's just a thing called Earth, and there's a bunch of beings in it. And some of them are benevolent, and some of them are his people, because the voice talks to them. And then obviously some of them aren't his people. So you can take that however you want to take it. But that's what the core reality is in here. All this other stuff is all mumbo jumbo. But we do have to deal with it because we have agreed to these types of things. We agree that we're an American or a Canadian, or we agree that that's a $20 bill and it will get you $20 worth of bread. But it really doesn't. There is no country. The birds, like that sparrow, will fly across the U.S. and Canadian border. He could go back and forth 8 times in the daytime and he doesn't check in. The deer walks right across the border, doesn't even know
it's funny. It's funny you say that way. I've never heard a philosophical point of view like that, and you're absolute. That's interesting.
Yeah, because if you're crossing the border and you've got a goose, there's a bird called Canada goose. It flies south in the winter and then goes back north in the spring. But if you try and take a goose across in your car, dead or alive, you're going to have armed people saying you can't do that. And while got you on the ground, a wild goose, could be flying overhead. That's how ridiculous this is. So whatever you think I was going to do with this goose, what about that one that just flew over? Did you shoot it down? No.
It's the construct of laws. It's the same principle as the guy who's running for his life off the boat in Florida, trying to get onto dry land where they can't touch him and where he has rights. We've looked into the structure of that, and one is maritime and one is land. And it's when you understand the difference of the laws of those two, he has protections as a people on the land. Now he comes onto the land and he's a free man, and they guide him towards a camp, and they start registering him into a system, just like they did in New York with the boats. They made him land on Ellis Island first and go through a registration process before they let him onto the mainland. And that's what the whole thing was about. And so there's that perception of really, truly making it into this nation. You are free and you have rights as one of the people. The second you go into one of those camps and start signing away your rights to get a green card, you've lessened your rights as a real man. And in the hopes that you can get permission to stay there versus the ability to stay absolutely by not registering. And don't get me wrong, there's ISIS and not ISIS, but ICE, where they, might put you in a detention cell until you run weary and decide to try to go home. But people don't know who they are and they don't know the rights, and they think they belong in that cell, and they don't. They're free men and women. They can go around this country. We start arguing about the 9 million crossing the border. I don't agree with it, but I also don't agree with registering them as a U.S. citizen as surety and the debtor of the collateral of a failed nation or a failed corporation. I don't know what to do there. But
yeah, it's not good collateral because they don't earn. So that, like, in the system, speaking
right.
that way, it has nothing to do with them as men or women, but in this commercial system, they don't contribute because they don't, if they're not working and actually taxing coming off, then
that's a whole nother question. At what point do they start making money on the bonds of an individual that is coming into this nation? Is that the point of because even the green card is a bond. Yep. The naturalized citizen is a bond. The birth certificate it's all. So at that moment when it's bonded, it is a security. It's going into more than likely some tranche being separated out and invested into by multiple houses. And people don't believe this, but they are profitable based on just the fact that they created the bond. Now, obviously, there's the performance elements of that bond later on, but then you got a 1040, that's a bond. Then you got, all these different things that we're doing. We're creating the power for them to set these debts off and get paid by our taxes. So it's crazy. It's ridiculous.
It's a completely corrupt system, and it has to go. Like, there's no fixing it. And
fixing it.
Revelation 18 starts with that. It's completely decrepit. And
I had a guy say, as a state citizen, am I going to lose my right to vote? I flipped it on him. I'm like, voting in a corporate structure for a corporate president, or for a structure that's already in default and failing, or for a fake, because your vote doesn't count anymore necessarily. I don't believe the voting system counts.
Well, it counts because all they can say is they want it. They're agreeing to this. So it's literally, how many people do they get to vote? Doesn't matter which side you vote to. It's like, just get out and vote. You're giving us the permission to carry on.
Right.
That's all it is.
In mass.
Yes.
And that's the key. That's the key, in mass. And that's why it takes, under the Northwest Ordinance, 30,000 per state to re-inhabit the republic. It's an in mass movement thing.
Exactly.
But there's a few people out there now. The republic has been re-inhabited, but from a technical standpoint, to be able to get recognition on a nationwide basis and then get the military behind it, it's under the my thought and my belief is it's through the Northwest Ordinance. But whole nother subject matter. Talk about the success, if you don't mind, that you've had doing what you're doing.
We've had numerous people step down. I don't even know the number anymore. But some real notables. We've had 3 premiers in Australia step down. So that would be like your state governor in the United States. We had the previous prime minister, which would be like your president of Australia. We've had numerous CEOs of utilities. Rochelle Walensky, the head of the CDC. And then on New Year's Eve, we had the Queen of Denmark step down. She got 14 notices. And the thing about her is the Queen.
Royalty.
A royal. Yeah.
A supposed bloodline.
Yes.
Step down.
I've never seen a bloodline step down before.
And what was the public cause reason?
Tired.
How do you associate your notices, the final notices, to her as the cause?
It's mostly because of the people of Denmark. One of her mantras, a thing that they heard all their lives, because she's been there for quite a while, is "I will never abdicate the throne under any circumstances." That kind of mantra. It was her calling card. So on New Year's Eve, she goes, "I'm abdicating the throne," and everybody's like, it cut to the core of all the people, because they had heard this all their lives, that she would never do that. "I will be here until I die."
Wow.
So that was the shocking part of it. And because, what caused that to happen? And she talked about an operation that she had almost a year before that. It's like, no, that's not it. I'm sure you recovered from that. And she was well liked there. She's not, I'm not saying she was a bad person or anything, but so the nation was shocked. It was shocking to them because of her constant "I will never do that" over a long period of time. So that's why they think, no, it's because of these notices. And so a lot of word got around locally, and more people started coming towards INPOWER in Denmark, and then more CEOs started stepping down, and it starts to snowball.
How long have you been doing this?
We've been open, like, with our automated system for about a year and a half. We opened a year ago last September. And so with about 200 people sending the documents, we had about 20 people step down. Now we're probably closer to 50 or 60 people step down. And this is the ones that where you can kind of go, yeah, that's probably this. Like there's a bunch of step down that got the notice, but we're like, nah, maybe not. They were getting kind of old, and so we don't count those. It's the ones where it's like, nah, that's the reason why. There's no other reason. Like the one guy in Western Australia was being fast tracked to be the prime minister. He had death threats. He was a real tyrant. So he had death threats, and the police said, you should probably go into some kind of protective custody here, move from your home and all that. No, I'm not doing that. He gets notice of liability, steps down within 15 minutes, sells his house, puts everything in his wife's maiden name, like disappeared, went completely underground.
Money.
It's all about money, and his name is now on the debtor line on a bill of exchange, which is a negotiable instrument, could get in anybody's hand.
And you take these negotiable instruments. At some point, what is your goal?
Our goal is to bill all of the money out of the system, because unless the judgment comes, so we're just working towards a goal, if there's a tarry or an appeal, because Lucifer appeals a lot. You can see that in Job. So our long-term goal, in case there's a delay, is we're going to bill all the money out of the system and give it back to the people. Without money, yeah, it is. Without money, they can't do any of the things they're doing.
I agree. And tying that into a modern crypto system, maybe?
Yep.
Okay.
And they've opened the door for all this stuff. So everything they've done, God takes what they meant for evil and turns it into something good. And we're just, we're just trying to catalyze that. And
you can have a people's coin or a republic coin or whatever, and you don't need to tie it into being compliant with 20022 or any of the above.
Nothing.
The IMF, you can just operate that.
We have the dominant position on the water, land, and in the air, and that's all there is in this thing called Earth. We were given that in Genesis 1:27.
Do you know how many people don't know who they are? Like you just said something, and the people, they don't know who they are.
No.
Like, and I explained this to you the other day. I said, docs are 10%. Your status in the corporation is 10%. You're understanding who you are as a living man or woman under the Almighty with the power that you have is the 90% or more. And to get you to shift from all the programming that you've had your whole life to being able to stand in a court and say no, and to understanding the structure of that veil, and like in the Wizard of Oz, it's a big veil. It's been pulled over our face, and there's really a small, tiny group of people behind that curtain that are weak, old men.
Yes.
And they hold on to these digital keys that are seemingly powerful to the world.
It's a house of cards.
It's a falling house of cards. And now those same guys are all fighting amongst each other to gain controls on the new system.
I know.
And all managed by Lucifer. And don't think for a second he's not managing both sides of the house.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's come out. Don't play with them. Get completely out. Give them double back what they've given to you under the same exchange, the bill of exchange that they have done with you your whole life. Serve them a double portion, and let me bring that judgment later.
Exactly.
And literally, because they have enforced statutes, codes, and ordinances that are against living men and women that could harm not just them, but the world to which God created, to the world which Yeshua is the beneficial interest on. Literally, they are going to pay double and then some because of those bills of exchange, and now guilt. And now they're liable because they did not respond. And you
to
put
their
them
own system. That's the
to their
beauty
own
of
system.
taking their
Correct.
cup. Like, you use their own cup against them. It's like feeding the snake its tail. It
So
eats itself.
when I said to you what we do and how we do it, you really quickly understood it. Most people don't get the federal rules of regulations, or what an exhaustive administrative process is, or what a court of record is, and they don't understand the power of that. And so that's what you do. We were creating like structures minus the bill of exchange, which I'm wondering how I can incorporate that into what we're doing, because they are literally keeping your true self from yourself, knowing that it's fraud, because the DOS is responding in a form that we're saying we're state citizens, and you're trying to usurp the jurisdiction. You're literally crossing out California, you're putting CA, you're crossing out what we put on our application, and you're putting in the full words that you have jurisdiction over, to change the jurisdiction of the application so that you can try to gain controls of the people that are trying to come out.
Mm-hmm.
We have thousands of the DOS trying to manipulate an application that's being done by a sovereign.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine the fraud in that?
Because it's an application. That's the thing. You like, we do ours on our own paper, and one of the clauses in there is all words are as the claimant understands them, not pro tunc. So they may understand the word on this day a certain way, and 10 years from now they may understand it a different way. But they get to choose that all through time. Yeah. So we got them, and there's nothing this is all the same tricks that they've done. We're just feeding it back to them. How do you like it? And they're running.
Right. I'm just wondering how we can tie it, because we're having success no matter what. We're getting through it, but they're like, for people that have IRS issues, they stop them from being free, or they try to. People that have child support issues, I get it. Your mama, the reality is she got paid through the system, and the father didn't pay back the system. So that's the child support issue. It's not necessarily he owes the mom, because the mom always goes to the system mostly to get the help and support. But she's for sure creating a bill of exchange in the system.
The court order for child support is a bill of exchange, but guess who keeps it?
Yeah, they do.
The court keeps it.
Right.
And okay, you're done. Next.
Let's get through this. Let's get to judgment.
Okay, talk. Yeah, whatever. Talk. Are you done talking? Okay, here we go. Next.
Get to judgment. Yeah, and then you can just see the greed on their, because the judges, in my opinion, participate. Now, I've had a couple of interviews with judges. I said, everybody that goes to prison, they get a prison bond. He's like, I knew something was happening. I didn't know it was a prison bond. And I said, did you participate in private prisons and the benefit of owning stock in them? He said, no, I didn't, but there are a lot of judges that did. And so the judges, the prosecutors, think about this for a second. If you can prove on their Form 750 of what they're supposed to file with the county to show what they're invested in as a public officer, to show that they have involvement in private prisons, can you imagine how easy it would be to disqualify that judge, sidebar him to maybe even permanently based on that? And I don't think anybody's really done that, because they're all, they have a problem in that they have a serious conflict of interest. You have the judge over the Trump case being disqualified right now because of the judge's daughter and the conflict of interest they have in that case. That's a whole nother conversation. But so you have At what degree right now are you guys? Like,
We're
how
at the
many?
beginning. Yeah, we're just at the beginning. So this is going to be one of those things that goes like this, and then hockey sticks up. And that's why Revelation 18 says so much riches is gone in an hour, or in one day. There's two references, but it's fast is what they're saying.
How does somebody participate in your program?
You join. It's a private membership association called a church, protected by the U.S. Constitution.
Wait a minute. You know what a private membership association is? I'm just kidding. You know, there's so many people out there saying, "No, you can't do that. You can't have that. It's got to be registered." I'm like, dude, shut up.
No.
I've been operating as a quasi PMA church, not quasi, but it's an actual church PMA for the last 15 years.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really quite simple when you really see it. But yeah, so we're a constitutional church, not registered, not recorded. We got the EIN from the IRS to do banking purposes only, all that stuff. And there's nothing they can do unless they get rid of the U.S. Constitution.
What does the membership cost?
$150 a year or $15 a month.
And docs, how much do those cost?
Nothing.
So you're just putting people into the position of how do they participate in being a member? How do they participate on the bonds being created?
On the bills of exchange being created, you pick your agenda, smart meters, vaccine, or whatever in your country. You find your respondents. We vet them for you to make sure you're not crossing a line and getting yourself into, because there's lines, and so we keep people way back from the edge, because it's just not dealing with novices, and so we keep everybody safe. So once you pick your respondents that you want to send to on that agenda, we vet them for you. Once they're vetted, they get the respondent number. When you're ready to send, you put in your respondent numbers, you put in your mail numbers. We send you the documents already filled out, so you can't get the wrong names on the wrong lines. We've been down all these roads. And your daily fee that you want to charge, it's all in there. And then our system calculates everything for you. Going in, you get the next round, notice a fault, then notice a default. Then you start getting your bills, and we email them to you with your names on there, your witnesses' names, all that stuff. So it's an amazing thing that we built, and not me, like I'm not techie, but and we're rebuilding it because we kind of patched some things together just to get open. And now we have a working model. We've worked through some of the issues that pop up that we didn't foresee, and so now we're building our own standalone thing, and we're starting to work up towards our white paper on the crypto, so we understand exactly what we're doing. We're all in agreement. We can see we're running different scenarios to make sure that this thing can work at high speed, at high volume. Are we going to have any crashes? And so we're running all those diagnostics and trying to figure out how to do this, because we're not selling it. We're giving it, which is nobody does that. We're actually not selling the crypto. We're building it so that we can give the money that's currently in the system back to the people as a transition. Hopefully we can move away from money, but maybe not. And it doesn't really matter to me, but we do have to get the money from them. That's absolutely crucial in my view. It's the money.
Explain to the people the money, how that translates, how a bill of exchange translates to money for them maybe in the future.
It's the system is built on a jurisdiction that they stopped talking about hundreds of years ago called law merchant. And so you'll go on the website on the internet, and you'll see that they even call it a myth. They definitely don't want you looking at it. But it does exist because it's written in the UCC, it's written in the Bills of Exchange Acts around the world, and in federal acts, like these are all federal acts, and they mention law merchant, but they don't teach it in law school. So no lawyers know about it unless you move sort of up the chain. So most lawyers go, there's no such thing as this and that. And then, oh, yeah, well, why is it written in the UCC right here? Sucks to be you that you were lied to at law school, but that's not my problem. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. Isn't that what you guys always say to us? How do you like it?
You know,
So
I was
we're taking the cup and we're handing it back to them all the time. It's always an Aikido move.
That's good. Did you ever take Aikido?
No. So the whole money thing is contrived. Money doesn't really exist. And these certain families, merchant families going way back in time, and law merchant goes way back into Babylonian times or even like into antiquity. And I've got a lot of teachings on this. When you start to see modern banking ideas happening before they had any currency, it's like, okay, who knows about put options when you haven't even started money yet? Somebody knows something that's out of context with the time. They're either not from here or went back in time, whatever it is, but something isn't making sense here. Mm-hmm. You can't have complex banking ideas before you've even started currency. They're still trading in corn and cows, and but they got these banking concepts. So who's introducing these? What's going on here? So that's why I go back. So once you see this, there's something going on, and then you can watch this thing going through history and just modifying itself and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's all about money. And the banking families were originally the merchant families, and they were able to write these credit notes, and everybody agreed, oh yeah, they're rich. Their signature on a piece of paper is good as gold. You ever heard that term? It is paper. And some people didn't trust it. Like our grandparents were like, paper money? I don't know. We were brought up gold, silver, like that's 1 ounce and that's 2 ounces. I don't know if you can see that or not. But one is thicker than the other. Like this is twice as heavy as this. Paper is like, it's paper. Just because just because you write 2 on there instead of 1, is this piece of paper worth twice as much as the other one? So people were very skeptical. Now we just trust it like we don't even think about it because we've been trained out of that. So the merchant families turned into banking families once they established this idea of banking. And now the banks run the world. It's just the merchants on a bigger scale. And that's why Revelation 18 mentions merchants, because they're really talking about those elite families.
Okay, hold on one quick second. Well, I'm definitely impressed. I'm a little bewildered as to I understand how you did it, and it blows my mind that it's that simple. But you probably have a perfected side on the docs that I have not read that allows you to complete and cause injury to the system because of their inability to respond to the facts of the case or the court of record. So I'm impressed. And if you're getting people to step down and run because they're the debtor on an instrument like that, that's very impressive, especially when you're talking the low numbers that you were talking about, 200 versus maybe 20 to 50 people stepping down. Hey, the point is, for some reason in 2024, Cat Williams, he's a black comedian that it is kind of funny, but he's always been outside of the mainstream, and he's been talking about Diddy and Sean Diddy Combs and all the guys in Hollywood who have made a pretense and gave up their sovereign nature and went and had sex with another guy that was higher up than him that controlled systems. They got him to wear a dress, and they got him to put a large dollar amount in their account as a reward, or got a contract as a reward. And he told the truth about, the different how just to get in, and this is off topic, but it's really not, because that whore system, takes a band that has potential and brings them into a signing party, and it opens up a room door and says, you have to go into this room first before you can sign the contract. And it's a bunch of homosexuals having sex and being recorded. And I personally know of a band that 3 of them went into that room and 1 of them didn't. And I can go on and on with those types of stories, but that's where we are at today. So the fact that you have figured out a way to get to a point where either God can bring judgment, and who is holding the claim would be the people. That's huge. That's huge. And I have a deep respect for you taking it on. People don't understand what like men in our position are doing, and the potential risk. But I don't look at us as being at risk. I look at us as being protected, and a divine protection that a lot of people really don't understand. And I'm cool with whether they get it or not get it. It just doesn't matter. I think a lot of people are going to look at the year 2024 all the way through 2030 as being the year of exposure and the year of reckoning. And while they're trying to bring in that global world order structure, we're going to be wiping them out and building in God's kingdom. It's just my 2 cents. But anyway, we don't need to do this for hours. Do you have any closing comments that you want to bring to the table?
No, I mean, get involved in something, because, the voice from heavens is, we're not supposed to be passive. I can tell you that. There's action you got to take. So get involved. We need to make the change. God can't do it for us. He can do it for us, but we have to be the impetus of that. That's the agreed upon modus operandi, or the rules of engagement, or something like that. Man has to be involved. And if you want to see that, at the time of Noah, read the book of Enoch, chapter 9 and 10, and you'll see that the earth had to cry out, and I'm pretty sure the earth is crying out now. And then men had to cry out, and then told the watchers to take their suit before the Most High. And then not until that happened did the Most High actually intervene. And now the watchers, who were only allowed to watch, could get in there because they went to the Most High. Men have cried out, okay, boom, get in there. Boom. Tell Noah to get in the boat. Shut this down. Boom, it's going to start raining. It was our participation. And so Yeshua said, as it was in the days of Noah, he gave us a hint. Go back and look what happened there, because you're going to need to do that again at the end. Wow.
I posted your website on the bottom of the screen here, empowermovement.org, empowermovement.org. I'm going to also post him to His Advocates TV, where you can download our app on your phone, His Advocates TV. You can also watch us on Roku, Apple, Amazon, Google, LG, Samsung, and so forth. You can also watch us at His Advocates TV, which is on the internet anywhere. But listen, Cal, it's been a pleasure to meet you and to talk this through with you and to get a better understanding. I recommend anybody that wants to help to fight against those 4 bioweapons against the people of every nation, to reach out, become a member of this man's website, and get started on your journey to help take back the wealth of this world, the wealth of the evil sources that they've taken away from us unexpectedly, unknowingly, through forcing us to bond our children's children, which we didn't know. Help us to take that back and apply it back to Republic and to reestablishing the kingdom here on earth for when Yeshua does come. But Cal, thank you very much for your time, and God bless you and your endeavors, and have a great week.
You too.
All right, buddy.